Many Namibians say they're hoping that a new government will address the challenges of poverty and unemployment in that country. Voting started well in Windhoek, where the two front-runners cast their ballots at different polling stations.
Long queues at this polling station.
It's our constitutional right to vote firstly, and yes, it's make an effort or otherwise keep quiet, you know.
I think it's very important for us to vote in these elections, yeah. So I was willing to come early. But it's going pretty fast as well, so the wait isn't that long.
It's very important, as young people especially, because you are given that power to change your future and, you know, it's time to make those changes, vote for change.
It's my citizen right. That's why people went to war and fighting for our rights. So there's no way that I can miss it.
Voting stations opened on time and voting went smoothly. The Vice President of Namibia, who is also a presidential candidate for SWAPO, says she is hopeful that her party will do well.
I saw people responding well, so I'm just really expecting good results, and then for us to move forward in advancing what we have committed to the people of Namibia.
Other presidential candidates are equally optimistic.
I'm absolutely delighted I was able to exercise my democratic right and cast my vote at the very school that I started my childhood schooling at grade 3, and it was absolutely great. And I felt so happy that so many people died and sacrificed for us to be able to have this opportunity to vote.
More than 1 million Namibians are registered to vote in these elections. Sophie Mokoena, SABC News, Windhoek, Namibia.
All right, let's cross live now to SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena for the very latest on the Namibian elections. Sophie, let's just start first with where you are, because I can see some long queues behind you.
Yes, indeed. We are here at Robert Mugabe Avenue, but also it is a museum, the Independence Museum. They've set up a polling station behind me here, and we are told that voting started at 7, but right now voters are complaining that the process is quite slow and there are long queues. And this has been a familiar sight in terms of where we were earlier on in the morning, and also in the township, also Soweto, and back to Windhoek at the Institution of Higher Learning. And therefore, what I can say is that many people are doing what they are supposed to do, part of their civic duty. And of course, the queues are quite long.
And listening to some of the people you've interacted with, they do understand the importance of this election as well.
Particularly the young people. They know exactly what they want. They know what elections are about. And they really have interest in what's happening in their country, but not only in their country, but also in other countries, particularly in the neighboring countries and, of course, countries on the continent. Because when I was engaging young people at the Technicon, they told me that they follow news. And guess who is the reliable source for them of news? It's SABC. And they say they know what's happening in their country and outside their country, and therefore they have best interest in terms of ensuring that they do contribute towards building their own country and the continent, and also making impact globally. And therefore you get a sense that they are really involved, but also you have senior citizens who are talking about the important role played by their peers in terms of liberating Namibia, but also other countries as well. And therefore, you get a sense that there's that political education, economic education, and also just civic education in terms of knowing who you are and what they are supposed to do as responsible citizens.
And it also speaks then to, if there is this much awareness amongst the electorate, it speaks to the pressure that will then be on whichever political party wins this election in order to address the issues that they would have watched on SABC, for example, and they would be experiencing in order for them to, really just get a sense that these issues are being dealt with.
Yes, one thing that they spoke about is how they followed the discussions we've had about Namibia, and them saying they've listened to some of their leaders in terms of what they are offering, and they know exactly what's contained in the manifestos of these leaders. But also they were looking at not only reading on paper, listening and to hear how articulate their leaders in terms of across the position in terms of how they are going to address issues that are affecting young people, particularly unemployment, the issue of the economy, the issue of the resources of this country, and the issue of security, but also being a neighbor with other countries. They want to share expertise, they want to learn from neighboring countries, and also they really want to develop their country, and they are quite learned. I mean, at the institution, I spoke to some with in the process of obtaining the senior degrees, but they say this is the only thing that they can do, because when they finish with junior degrees, they can't even find jobs, and therefore they just continue to study. And I think it's the trend even in South Africa, where you end up having this highly qualified group of young people who are unemployed, which is very problematic in terms of when you look at the needs of the young people on the continent.
And Sophie, it's also quite fascinating when you look at how the country itself has made sure that people do go out to vote. There are no distractions and they do show up, and there's nothing else that could prevent them from showing up in this moment.
Yes, clearly the Electoral Commission would criticize where necessary, but I think they did a sterling job. I was speaking to a tour guide who was standing here with us. When they saw us, they even came to us to ask us to communicate the message that at this polling station, they've been waiting since in the morning. The process is slow. When she spoke about how they prepared for these elections, talking about voter registration, where the Electoral Commission was clear that you have to register and you must register in your own area. But on voting day, they do allow you to go and cast your ballot in another polling station, because you know that particularly the Black Africans, they work in towns and they live in the township. And sometimes you find that they are here. Let's take, for example, doctors, security, the emergency services. So they can't go back to the township and go and cast their ballot. Some of them are going to arrive very late, and therefore they can utilize the facilities or the voting station near where they are. And that does encourage a better turnout in terms of making voting accessible. I think in South Africa, the process is too cumbersome, and those restrictions sometimes affect voter turnout. For example, if you say student during holiday, they must go and vote where they are registered. Some of them have registered at their institutions of higher learning, and therefore they can't go back there. If it's during perhaps the calendar year, they are at higher institutions of higher learning, and some of them have registered back home, they can't go back there. The same with working class. Some of them, they go home because it's long weekend, and therefore you say they must come back and vote in Johannesburg, live in Popo or Frankfurt, my little home, Dorby. No. So you must make voting accessible as long as you can be able to identify a voter who is registered and legitimately so. I don't understand this process of restrictions, and that is why the voter turnout is so low or people discouraged.
All right, Sophie, thank you so much for that update there. We'll catch up with you as the story develops even in the coming days there. That's SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena.